Well, let's get started from news from Europe. Britain's dilemma over whether or not leaving the European Union would be a good idea would soon be resolved if the referendum on the 23rd of June is successful. While Prime Minister Cameron has been trying to convince people to stay back, senior Conservatives are campaigning to leave. With the country divided into leave and remain groups, what remains to be seen is whether Britain would become the first country to leave the EU in the bloc's six-decade history.
To be or not to be is the question hovering around the minds of many of the Britons as they prepare for a referendum on June 23rd to decide Britain's future in European Union. With several recent polls suggesting that momentum is with the Leave camp, Remain supporters have stepped up efforts to convince voters. Prime Minister David Cameron has been campaigning hard and making a string of television appearances to convince people to back Remain. The shrill war of words was taken onto water as the rival camps debated Brexit, floating over the Thames in London. As Cameron answered questions on EU referendum, he warned on the challenges the country would face in case a Leave vote happens.
If we vote out, the experts warn us we will have a smaller economy, less employment, lower wages, and therefore less tax receipts. And that's why we would have to have measures to address a huge hole in our public finances. And nobody wants to have an emergency budget. Nobody wants to have cuts in public services. Nobody wants to have tax increases.
Leading the in camp, Prime Minister Cameron is facing deep splits in his own party, with many of the Conservative parliamentarians advocating an out. The left-leaning Labour Party, whose supporters could decide the June 23rd referendum, is all vocal for the EU membership. Senior Conservatives such as Michael Gove and Boris Johnson are leading the Leave campaign, with a handful of Labour MPs and UK Independence Party batting for it.
Europe's leaders have put ideology ahead of security. They've pursued projects like the single currency and the borderless Schengen zone, which have weakened our continent's resilience.
So I think they can see that on the democratic side of the argument, they are losing. But what they say is that that sacrifice of democracy is worth it for the economic gain.
I just think it's a bunch of upper middle class rich people and multimillionaires laughing at people whose voices have never been heard for 40 years, who are here today screaming out, please listen to us.
A string of global institutions, including the International Monetary Fund and G7, have backed Cameron's argument that Britain's economy would be damaged by Brexit. Other EU member states have also urged British voters to favour an in. European Council President Donald Tusk said leaving European Union doesn't make any sense.
The UK has achieved a position of a key state in the EU whose voice is respected today more than ever before. Many of the British ideas about the EU are gaining support all over Europe. There are so many things we can do together. Leaving now doesn't make any sense.
The whole Brexit debate has even left the voters divided and confused. Many voters are frustrated for not being adequately informed about the pros and cons. If Britain votes to leave the EU, it would be the first country to do so in the bloc's six-decade history.